I think we have everybody here, so why don't we get started? We'll open our regular board meeting for Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll just do quick introductions for everybody. From the board tonight with us, we have Meredith Moriarty, Willow Bear, Jonathan Fishbein, Christine Beck, Wendy Sampson, Chris Meyer, and myself, Holly Dellenbaugh. And we also have Jody Monroe, Judy Kehoe, Dave Hurst, and Kathy Johnston with us this evening. First up on our agenda is approval of minutes of our June 3rd meeting. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the June 3rd, 2020 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I have to abstain. I was not able to attend.
Okay. That carries. Next is, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the June 16th, 2020 special board meeting of the annual budget vote and Board of Education election.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next up is our superintendent's report.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank our school community for overwhelmingly supporting our budget. This process was quite the challenge this year. I'm grateful for the large community support that was shown for our students and programs. I'd especially like to thank Judy Kehoe, Brittany Barrett, and Joellen Gardner for their organization with the process and communication during the past several weeks. I'd also like to thank all the staff who stayed until very late last night counting ballots, and would also like to congratulate Holly, Meredith, and Christine for being reelected, and I look forward to our continued work together. Next, I also want to address, I think the board received some further emails today regarding equity and concerns that some of our students have. We have a district equity team. I think the board is well aware of that. Our team met yesterday to discuss how we can best address some of the recent events, both locally and nationally, as well as plans to move forward. So I wanted to address a few of those items. The first thing is we do understand the importance of what's happening. We do plan on developing a plan to address our school community and how we plan to move forward. We discuss the systemic nature of our work and how we engage our students and community in the work. I'm not sure that everyone is aware that we have a district equity and inclusivity team, which is composed of over 40 staff members from all buildings and levels. We began this work 2 years ago, and this past year we worked with Generation Ready to assess our level of cultural proficiency. Each building participated in an equity walk, and students were part of this process at the middle school and high school. So based upon this work so far, each level did develop an action plan that unfortunately we were not able to implement due to the schools being closed, but we do plan to begin this work again in the coming year. Another one of the big concerns that's been raised is in regards to our curriculum. It's one of the components, and we have staff at all levels who will be working to provide resources and make necessary changes for the coming school year. We do have a process when we change curriculum, and we've talked about there's a curriculum review process. We also have a curriculum council at the high school. However, we do believe that more immediate changes can be made. In fact, just before the board meeting, Andy Baker and I were invited to meet with Madame Atala and students from Amnesty International. We had a Google Meet. and the students asked a lot of questions and gave their insight and thoughts about some things that could be changed. And I know that the English department is planning on making some immediate changes to some of the literature that they're using, particularly in the survey courses beginning next year. However, one thing I think is important to know is that the equity committee is focused we've heard a lot from high school, but we're really focused on what changes do we need to be making that will impact curriculum and students in all grades, beginning in kindergarten through 12th grade, which is obviously a much larger undertaking, but we are, I think, moving in the right direction. And one other area I wanted to address is in regards to our hiring practice that's been brought up. In the last 2 years, we have made significant changes to our hiring practices. Last year, we put in place a training for all participants in the hiring process, where there's a training component that addresses unconscious bias in the interview process and steps to take in order to avoid this. Every participant is required to review this and sign off that they have completed the training. So I just felt it was important to address some of the more significant concerns that I know I've received emails about, and I know that the board has. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. And with respect to the elementary schools, I know one of the other things that I've heard is, and I'm sure this is part of what the equity team has been doing with looking at the elementary schools, but making sure that the library has materials in it that reflect a diversity of cultures and that they are accessible all the time to all the students K through 5 and K through 12 as well. But I've particularly heard interest in that for the elementary schools.
Sure. Yep. That is something that we're addressing. I know the librarians have already put some work into that.
Great. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Jody? Next on the agenda is the board report. I would just like to echo Jody's thanks to the community for the support of the school budget, and also the thanks to all of the tabulators who were here at the school very, very late last night, opening envelopes and diligently counting votes. I also wanted to recognize all of the seniors that won senior awards this past weekend. I had the chance to watch the presentation that was put together on that, and it was fabulous, as well as the recognition of the senior musicians, and was happy that we could do that. I also wanted to recognize Ms. Edgar and her cast of Hamlet. I'm hoping that there will be a recording that everybody can watch at some point. But this past Saturday, an intrepid number of high schoolers who have been working very hard over Zoom to rehearse a production of Hamlet put it on, and they did a great job. And the fact that they were able to stick with it all online was tremendous. So I really give her credit for her leadership of that process, and the students for sticking with that. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to add at this time?
I would, Holly. Just first of all, thank all the candidates that ran. Everybody, well, we couldn't all have seats. It was nice to see that we had a lot of community members who came out for running for the school board, and I appreciate the involvement. So I wanted to say thank you there. Also, the seniors did have their senior banquet at Jericho, I think the first week of June, and that went really well. The sign at the Jericho was all lit up, and I heard it had a great turnout and good results. And then yesterday, the caps and gowns and the t-shirts, the senior t-shirts, were delivered by teachers and different staff members with fire emergency vehicles, police vehicles. And I know I welled up as a senior parent, and I appreciated it. Aiden had a little bit of a smile, so I know he appreciated it. For Aiden, that's a big thing. And I think a lot of senior parents probably really appreciated that. It was a moment to celebrate with our kids, that we're not going to have some of those moments. So I know I did. And also, I wanted to give an update on the audit committee that we had last week. We went over the results of the internal audit. We talked about some of the attendance reviews that were completed and any exceptions that were identified. We talked about the final results of the concussion review. And then we go over the annual risk assessment and decide on what areas, which we haven't decided yet for next year. So it was pretty straightforward, nothing really to report out on. And we are planning for the external audit in the fall. And that's all I have.
I just wanted to thank all the faculty and staff for all their work the last few weeks in terms of making the end of the year special for all the students. I also saw the seniors getting their caps and gowns, and I know that was a big production and it took a lot of coordination and a lot of help from teachers and staff. I know people have been creating slideshows and coming up with all these innovative ideas. Teachers and staff have been on reverse parades and standing in the sun and waving to their kids and visiting homes and taking up hours of their day doing this. So I just wanted to let all those people know how much we appreciate it and how much the students really needed this, first of all, acknowledgement of their milestones, acknowledgement of their accomplishments, but also just to see their community in person was really wonderful for all those teachers who could come drop things off or the reverse parades. It really made a big difference. So I wanted to say thank you for all that work in coordinating it and standing in the sun and riding in school buses in hot weather.
And happy last day of school to all of our students and their parents.
I did want to bring up one thing. Jody, we had gotten an email from somebody who's coordinating kind of like a walk-in, walk-on. So I was wondering, have we had any more discussion on that?
So yes, I found out about it actually after the vote last night, and we didn't know that they were planning to use the high school. So I sent an email to them. So Mr. Domel and I are meeting with a few of the kids tomorrow at noon to talk about what their plans are. Obviously, we have a lot of construction at the high school, so we want to make sure that wherever they are, that it's safe. We want to also find out, what kind of traffic flow there will be. So there's a few of them that said that emailed me back and said they'd meet us tomorrow around noon to go over some of that information.
Is there any problem with them doing it on the school property with being closed, or no? We're just going to try to work that out the best we can.
Yeah, I don't know how we address that. They did say that they would ask everyone to wear a mask and socially distance. So I really don't know how many people. I know they sent invites to some of the faculty, and then I forward that to our equity team. But I have no idea how many other students they is planning to attend or any of that information. So I think they maybe forgot to contact us about the high school use. It's kind of an important detail.
Well, yeah, I'm just worried because I know like with graduation, we can't do anything outdoors with 150 people till June 26th. And so my question is like, can they really be doing it on school property at this point? And if we allow it, is it a problem? Not that I don't want to allow it. So I was actually happy to see that you're talking to them, but maybe they want to wait till June 26th. I don't know. Or 27th.
Yeah, I'll have a little more information, I guess, tomorrow afternoon when I meet with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Great. Next up on the agenda is our presentation this evening. We have our food service update for 2019-2020 from Melissa Iser.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
All right, I might need screen sharing. Brittany?
I'm working on it, Elisa. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, sorry. You should try again.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Can everybody see? All right, so
Yes.
Good. Thanks. So I'd like to give an update on our food service program, the annual update I give every year. Just glad to be here sharing what we've done this school year. It's been quite the school year for us. Construction, we've had probably 2 months of normalcy in our program this year. So it's definitely been a year where we've had to be on our toes. So I'm going to have about 3 sections, and I'll stop with each section just so you can ask questions so you don't have to wait till the end. The first section, I want to talk about the emergency feeding program we've been running since summer, and the summer program we're looking at running starting at the end of the month. Then second, I'll get into some updates on the kitchen renovations that happened, some stats on the program from this school year, and a little bit on what we are looking at for reopening as far as school food service. Last, the financials from this year, and then looking ahead at the budget, which we are asking you to approve for the food service program for the 2021 school year. So first, our emergency feeding program, we amazingly, the food service and the transportation staff who delivered, we've put out over 35,000 meals since we closed in March. So we were also on the ground the day that school closed. So we were providing the program without a gap in service. I have to give some special thank yous out to a few of our food service staff who have been on since the very beginning and continue to come every day. Rebecca Poole, Kevin Mosier, Cindy Alexander, and Jeff Sitzer. There's a longer list of food service staff who have been working and doing this work of feeding children, but those 4 have been on since the very beginning and have through and through just really devoted themselves to making this program happen for our families. I also want to thank 2 other groups. So our transportation staff, they delivered meals to, on average, 70 kids every day. We had 3 different buses going out and delivering those meals. So got to have thank you for them. And our administrators. So our administrators and supervisors were on rotation, volunteering to come and help at the pickup site. And it was really great because I think some of our families really appreciated seeing that face that they knew, and being able to have a socially distanced with masks on conversation and just see and check in. So that was, it was really nice to have them. And my staff greatly appreciated getting to know some of the district administrators as well. They expressed that to me multiple times. So there's the thank yous. And then just to give you an idea of the sort of volume. So on the average day, we would have made and distributed 600 meals. And that was for the kitchen, only 4 or 5 people working a 4-hour shift. So we were busy. It was a lot of hard work, and it continues to be a lot of hard work. And there's a lot of appreciation for these staff who have been a part of the program. A side note that we did coordinate with the backpack program. So every Friday when we did distribution, the backpack program, thank you to AG Irons and Dave Domel and the group that helped to pack the backpacks and make sure that those got to us. The backpack program actually went up in numbers during this emergency feeding period. So we were doing anywhere between 35 and 40 backpacks every Friday, in addition to the meals.
If I could add just a little note, Elisa has done amazing things over this time frame as well. I got to watch her struggling to find vendors who could provide the items that she needed to serve to the families. So she was able to produce a great menu for these families for both the breakfast and the lunches using some very creative means. She was coordinating all of the efforts with the state in order to make sure that we could maximize our reimbursements and helping track those costs for the FEMA claim as well. So a giant thank you to Elisa for her leadership with managing this program from day one, as she always does.
Thanks, Judy. No, it was actually really nice. It's been very rewarding to provide this program and to be able to switch it up and do what we need to do for the community to support those students and families that need it. So, and just a side note on that, we had a lot of families that were in need very quickly. So we were able to respond to a lot of need for families that aren't normally on our free and reduced list, but had some circumstances that made them need meals for their students right away. We also provided meals for the daycare that started caring for the children of essential workers, emergency responders. So it was schools out. And so we send them currently 10 meals a day, 10 sets of meals a day. So lastly on this slide, just want to mention the photographs. So we did get t-shirts, matching t-shirts for our staff and the transportation staff who've been delivering. So on the front, they say peace, love, and social distancing. And then on the back, they say feeding kids from 6 feet away. So it was a very nice, they loved them. So it was really nice to be able to have a little camaraderie with those. And we've been wearing them now that we have them. I think over the summer, we'll wear them on distribution days when we are all here. So there's, and then just a couple of pictures just so you can get an idea of what the bags looked like and what was in them. We did everything contactless. So the little 139 number you see, every family got a number, and at pickup, we were able to quickly use that number to find their information and then get them the meals. And we set them out on a table and then they would come and pick them up. And then our packaging. So just a note that on the bags from the beginning, our staff and then also the administrators got really into it to decorate the bags in a way that would make kids smile. So smiley faces, messages about what was going on, sometimes even specific messages if the administrator knew a student and knew what they liked. Yeah, we really should have had a competition because some people were really good artists, like Ray Nardelli. He's on this. He was a really good artist, guys. Hidden talents. So a couple other things, we were able to but hand out some product that would have otherwise gone to waste. We had paper packaged ice cream products that we sell a la carte at the elementary school. We took a few days and were able to get those out to families. They were very excited about that. The middle school garden had a bunch of romaine lettuce that they needed to get out to households. So we distributed about 300 heads of romaine lettuce from the middle school garden. And a thank you to Mark Warford, who packaged those and brought them to us. Also, Romo's Pizza donated 300 slices of pizza one day for our lunches. So that was very generous of them. We did still use some of our local produce. So Capital Roots still provided us with apples through the whole closure that we did put into the lunch bags. There were multiple agencies that when it was hard to get the face masks in the beginning, donated or made face masks and donated them to us. That was much appreciated because those first few weeks where it was required that we needed to wear face masks, it was tricky to source those. And then our USDA food, so the state OGS program was able to re-divert USDA food. So we were able to get a good amount of USDA foods to help us with the cost of doing this and in and above what we were entitled to in the school year. So things like applesauce cups and peanut butter and frozen and canned fruits and vegetables. So we brought a lot of that in and were able to use it, and that definitely helped. So yeah, this is nothing like my team and I have ever done before. I'm very proud of the work that we have been able to accomplish and the service we've been able to provide. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from the families that we have delivered or have picked up meals from us. Yeah. So any questions on that before we move on?
Lisa, this is Holly. I just wanted to say thank you to you and to your team. I heard so many positive things about how this program was working, and people were so happy with the results and that they were still able to easily feed their children. And I can't think of anything more important than that. So thanks so much for all your hard work.
Yeah, just thank you so much. We really appreciate everything you did. It's interesting because usually food service is a part of our relations with community. Well, with teachers at their school closing, food service really was our relations with community. And I know it was greatly appreciated. I know for some families in hearing it, it was the highlight of their day to get out of the house and actually see other people and come to the school. So no, you guys just knocked it out of the park and did an amazing job. So thank you.
Some people, this is Jonathan. Some people told me that they were looking forward to it just for the bags, and some other people had heard about the bags and wanted the bags. So maybe there's a future in selling bags at the school store.
Yeah, maybe it was. A lot of people had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, I'm glad that effort was appreciated.
Very much so. Thank you.
Okay. I'll continue on. So this year we had kitchen renovations, primarily at the high school, but also a little bit at the middle school. At the high school in the cafeteria, we had the front facade serving line area of the BC Blend got a facelift. So here we're looking to move the high school cafeteria to more of a food court environment or look. So this was one part, and then the snack bar was another part, which is on the next slide. But you can see it looks cleaner and more inviting. Apologize for the picture. This was post-closure, so things were kind of stored in front. But when open, it does look really, really nice, and provides an area for condiments at the pickup side of the window and some storage underneath, which was much needed. So then this is the Eagle Snacks, which was named by our seniors last year. So our snack bar was a cubicle that was just open in the kitchen, very close to where the main serving lines were. So this puts it a little further away from the main serving lines, so it's more separated. And we are expanding what's in there, so it has its own dry storage area, which is helpful because we have a really tight amount of space in terms of dry storage in the high school kitchen overall. So it will have the capacity to store the products that it sells in that area. We'll also have grab and go quick access items at this that are more like meals, so cold and hot items that students can grab quickly. Now, one other thing that we were looking at for next school year in normal times was that we were going to start doing pre-order meals, and the pickup would be at this site. It's very likely that we might be doing a lot more pre-order meals in the fall, so we probably are doing more locations for a pickup of pre-order meals. But if and when we get back to normalcy, this will hopefully be an area where students can grab a quick meal in between classes if they don't have a designated lunch period, or if their free period is outside of the time where we're open. We extended the hours as well to help with that access for high school students to get food, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or a snack. After school program will also run out of this this location instead of the main kitchen. And then in the kitchen preparation space at the high school, we did get a ceiling and lighting upgrade, which was much needed. We had very dim lighting, and the ceiling was a metal perforated ceiling that was hard to clean and maintain for our maintenance staff. So it's much nicer, and the Albany Health Department came and inspected it to reopen the kitchen, and they were very pleased with the fact that the lighting is so much brighter in the kitchen that you can see the surfaces adequately to know whether something needs to be cleaned or not, that the food presentation has more light on it, and that doubles for having a good display of product for us. The floor had some areas in the tile floor, specifically around the drainage, where the floor was breaking up. So the floor replacement, we decided to go with a solid surface with a grit in it. And that's been really nice to have in the time we were operating in full. It cleans up very nicely, and we're very happy with that. We also added a staff break area. So prior to this work, the staff really had no area to put personal belongings in the kitchen. So there are some lockers, there's areas for staff to take their lunch or short break in the day. So that's a big plus for them. We got an office for the food service office staff, myself and the food service assistant. So we now have an office with a door. Before we had a cubicle with a half wall. So that's a big upgrade. We're very happy and thankful for that. At the middle school, we had a small and original to the building walk-in freezer. And it was not very energy efficient. It wasn't an adequate amount of space. So we were able to get a larger walk-in freezer in another location, still close to the kitchen. And then that walk-in freezer is over the summer going to be removed, and they're going to make it into a cleaning, storage, and a small dry storage area. So that work has yet to be done. But the walk-in freezer at the middle school is done, and it's much needed and very going to be very useful going forward. And then Glenmont's kitchen is being worked on this summer. It's pretty much a full renovation of that kitchen. It's very old. It had electrical service that's going to be upgraded to a gas service for the equipment. And a lot of the equipment was very old and not working properly anymore. So it's going to make the serving line's going to be a new design that'll be more efficient for the students to get through the line. And we're very much looking forward to that kitchen being renovated in the fall. So and then other items to note from this past year is that in the fall, when we were under construction at the high school kitchen, we did bring in an outside vendor who we went to bid for, and they brought in food trucks so that we could still provide some variety for students, because we had converted a staff lounge into a kitchen off of the high school cafeteria. We have to give really big thanks to our custodial and maintenance crew for helping us to make that space as much into a kitchen as we possibly could. But obviously, with a staff break room and one household sink, it's very hard to pull off running a food service program for a high school of kids. So we mostly did a cold service with salad bar, sandwiches, and a soup station. We were able to run a limited menu of our BC blend, but we really felt that was not going to be sufficient enough options for our students to maintain their want to come and eat and with us. So the food truck was super well received. Students really liked it. We had 2 different food trucks that came on Mondays and Wednesdays. We were able to work out a deal where it allowed the vendor to get what they needed to get out of it, but we kept the price low. so students, even free and reduced students, could still get the meal at the food trucks. That was really important to me, that we had that equitableness, that, not only students that paid for the meal could get it. So everybody could get it, which was great. And then on Fridays, our staff, when the weather was nice, would do grill outs on the grills that are district owned. So kids, they liked that as well. So we made that work. That was just a very big part outside of coronavirus. That was a big part of our year. The second thing on the list is that for school year 2021, but a lot of the work has been done this year, South Colony, Guilderland Schools, and Bethlehem, we are going into cooperative bid agreements for our grocery, our supplies, our milk, our bread, and our diverted commodities. So this is really good for two reasons. We'll have increased volume and over a small distance, so we could get better prices, not only for volume, but because one truck could service all three districts, or one service could service all three districts. Secondly, there's a lot of K-12 specific products that are really challenging to get if you don't have a lot of volume. So bidding together will allow us to get some of the products that it's very challenging to get, because we'll probably be able to meet some more of the minimums that manufacturers have for distributors to bring a product in. So we're looking at, for instance, a brand of chicken products that are very high quality, and we're trying to get those brought in, but also at a price that we want. So that's very exciting news for the quality of the food. And also it's allowing three districts to share best practices and, what students like at all three. So it's an exciting thing for us. Then lastly, I just want to mention that we have a new this year middle school cook manager, and she's been doing an excellent job, Christine Del Signor. She has been great at upgrading our breakfast menu at the middle school, which we've had good increases at this year. She has done a lot of work with the quality of the food and also encouraging a team-centric environment, and the team there functions very well together under her leadership. So I just want to say, we have a really good person there at the middle school who's been doing excellent work. So any questions on any of that, the renovations or this year items? No? Okay. So moving forward to some things we're looking at as potentials for reopening with precautions for COVID-19 in mind. I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's a lot of uncertainties, but I just want to give you an idea of some of the things that we are looking into in the event that we need to take a look at some of these and make these happen for fall. One thing that we are actually already putting into place is some extra staff training on food safety. All of our staff will have a 2 to 2.5 hour serve safe food handler training completed by fall. So that training is done by the National Restaurant Association. It's a very good training, very thorough. And they have to take an exam at the end of that training and pass. So that's one thing that we are doing. Also, I am looking at revising some of our cleaning procedures so they match some of the new and current recommendations that have come out. Meals served to the classroom. So it says K-8, but I think we're more looking at meals served to the classroom K-5 at this point as a potential, and looking at serving in expanding the number of areas of cafeteria. So for example, at the middle school, you may use gymnasiums as cafeterias. Pre-ordering meals, I mentioned this before. So pre-ordering is probably going to become the new norm. We're going to use the Google Suite as much as possible to not incur additional costs with extra software. At the high school, for example, we will be increasing points of service and methods of service greatly so we can divide the students up into less lines and socially distancing those lines. Meal payments. So cash handling is a big area we have thought about, and we do not want to do any cash handling at the point of sale, point of service. We're going to do a push to try to encourage our families to pay online and use My School Bucks. However, we will also accept cash or check, but it's going to go into it'll be a different system at different grade levels, but it'll be collected in a batch, and then that batch will be deposited at one time during the day, all together, one person, one set of gloves, and be done. So we won't accept cash at the point of sale to try to minimize any commingling of things. And then just another thing to expect, if we have to have all these precautions in place, that it will impact our sales. A la carte sales specifically, if we are doing pre-ordering, the only way to do it is to really limit the number of items beyond, you can't have your full menu of items. It is too hard to carry that when you're doing pre-ordered meals. We'll do our best, but a la carte will definitely be a thing. And this is not anything that, just we are experiencing. Other school districts across the country, their food service programs are looking at a la carte sales and not knowing exactly how to meet what we normally would in a normal year. So that is an area I would continue to look at ways to keep as many of those sales as we can. But it is something that isn't looking all that great at the moment. So some of the statistics, so free and reduced approval rates over the last 3 years, and it's by building level. So it hasn't changed much between 11 and 14%. To give you an idea, that the number of students is around 480 students district-wide currently that receive free or reduced breakfast or are eligible to. And 1% change is 45 to 50 students, therefore. So you're looking at, 1% isn't nothing. It's, 45 or 50 kids. So that is our free and reduced rate update. The high school average sales. So our sales before the 1920 school year is based on just January and February because we did not have normalcy in the fall with the construction. So that limits the data a little bit. However, looking at January and February sales, we were doing really well and the snack line wasn't even open yet. So we were looking forward to opening the snack line the week after the closure began. So we would have had that additional on top of. So we were sad to not be able to get it open before the closure. However, it's good to note that we were in a good state before closure happened. Our lunch participation continues around 10 or 12%. Mostly the business we do at the high school is that a la carte sales. And then it'll be a necessity to have some sort or some capacity for pre-order meals in the fall. We still have the after-school program running. That still continues to be successful. And as I said, we were looking to move that out from the main kitchen into the new snack line area. And just a reminder for any of you that the high school is not part of the school meals program. So we do not get reimbursement for the high school, the meals we serve at the high school as we do for the K-8 schools. The middle school program. So we have definitely had increased breakfast participation, a 1% increase, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we have pretty low participation in breakfast across the board, and 1% is 11 more students on average a day. So that really is moving the dial in the right direction with breakfast participation. And lunch participation is up about 20 students a day. So those are great trends. The students are liking our snack bar. We did have a goal of adding a salad bar to the middle school. However, with coronavirus, it's probably going to have to be on delay. So we were also talking about adding an additional point of service for lunch because we were almost meeting capacity in terms of how many students we could serve with 2 lunch lines and 1 snack line. So we were going to look at a 3rd lunch line potentially. However, we might have that on hold if we have to do a different thing for the fall. And then elementary, this is just number of students on average that are participating buying lunch daily. So it has dipped down again, but it really over time stays pretty consistent. The other thing to note, especially with this data point, our elementary participation tends to go up at the end of the school year, March, April, May, June. So we are missing those months of data. So that does impact all the data, but I think specifically for elementary school, because we do always see those rates go up those last few months of the school year. And then I just give an update on meal prices. We're looking at keeping all the meal prices the same for the next school year. And then I do review a la carte pricing annually. Our a la carte offerings in the fall could be pretty limited. So we might be just looking at a limited list and looking and making sure the pricing meets what we need to have it meet to cover our non-food costs. And also a note, just to so everyone is on the same page, that our markup rate is meant to break even. So we are not a program looking to make money. We're just a program that is looking to break even every year, cover our costs. So now to look at the program financial statements from this year. So we are not at the end of the year yet. So we're projecting, our projections for 6/30/20 are as of the end of May. So as it's pretty obvious to see, everything's all of our sales revenues are much lower due to the closure. Our state and federal funding, it has increased. So emergency meals are all reimbursed at the free rate, which is about $5.80 a day per student. So we have been able, whereas normally we're getting different rates based on the eligibility of the student who purchases, all these meals we've been serving are at the free rate. So we are actually surpassing what we have usually done in terms of federal and state reimbursement revenue or money coming in. Everything else is either lower or around the same. So hard to compare the data, but yes. And then our expenditures for the year, we still have the same salaries and benefits as we paid all of our staff, whether they were here physically working or not. We paid them their contracted rates. Our food cost is down because we did not have to bring in the same level of food that we would have if we were in normal operations. But our supply costs, as you can see, are close to at $33,000 what we had last year at the end of the year's expenditure. So that really has to do with the fact that the method we've been using to serve meals requires so much more packaging that we've had to spend more money on those packaging products. We have been keeping track of them in hopes that we might be able to get FEMA reimbursement for them, but don't know for sure if that is something that we'll be able to see through. So the overall picture, or the summary for this year, is that we are looking at a net loss of $290,000. Mostly due to the fact that we are not getting our sales and we're still covering our salaries and our benefits for our staff. So we'll be using our fund balance, which we've built up over the last few years and is meant to, help us to replace equipment and do some of those extra cost things that come up in different years. And we've built that up over the last 3 years. So that money is going to be used to help cover that loss. And then after that, we're looking at about $213,000 that the program will be as a loss. So any questions regarding this year's financials before I talk about the budget for next year? Okay.
Hey, I don't have a question about the financials. I had a question a few slides back, and I apologize. I just didn't find the right time to interrupt you. And I don't need the slide. The question is about next year, and I can wait till you're done, but I'm curious about how we're thinking about restructuring or reorganizing the cafeterias in all the buildings if we have to repurpose cafeterias for educational space.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, and then we can go back to the budget. So at this point, I don't know of anyone who is looking at repurposing the cafeteria space as an educational space. I know it's been thrown out there, but I have asked the principals, and I haven't gotten that feedback that they're going to use that space or intending to in the fall. There are going to be differences, if the circumstance is that we're only bringing some students back and those students are younger students, we may be repurposing staff and using other kitchens to, prepare food that then gets sent out to the other buildings for service, because we only have at elementary level 2 workers in the kitchen. So if we were doing meals in the classroom, we would likely need more staffing, because it's an additional packaging and delivering them and managing all of that. So we would probably repurpose some staff if we didn't have staff in all the buildings. You make me think of another thing though too that I didn't mention, that is, if some kids are coming back to school and some kids are not, we will still feed in 2 models. So we'll feed on site, but we will also feed, as we have been in emergency feeding, either by pickup or delivery model to the homes. So is that?
Elisa, it's Jody. Just to jump in there, I do think the elementary principals, when they've done their final kind of assessment, if we are required to do 6-foot social distancing, I do think they have plans to use the cafeteria as classrooms.
Okay.
In phases 2 or 3. I don't think that's not the case in the middle or high school though.
No, yeah, okay. I wasn't sure of their specific plans, so I've only heard from a few principals. But if that is the event, because we have thought about it, we would be looking at, we are going to be serving to the classroom anyways, so the cafeteria space wouldn't be much use to us. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Almost there. So now we have the budget for 2021 school year. So projected in yellow, I just have what we're expecting to transfer from the general fund to make the program whole for this year, and the use of our fund balance, the $76,000. Looking at the budget for next year, we're assuming a normal year with this budget, which is probably unlikely, but to try to predict what type of budget we needed would be very, very hard. There's too many uncertainties. So we're projecting based on a normal year, and that's how we are budgeting. Oh, I just lost lights. Hold on. There we go. But as the school year progresses, Judy and I will keep you all updated as to the financial status of the program and any new circumstances that arise that impact our budget. So expenditures we're looking for are here. And yeah, any questions on anything that I didn't cover that you've heard about or want answered regarding food service?
Can you just go back to the last 2 slides? And because I'm sort of dumb about money and math, can you help me understand what the 2 different columns represent, projected 630 versus next year's budget?
Yep. So projected at 630 is it's the same as the prior slides. We're looking at what we're expecting to have in all those items at the end of this year. It's hard to compare because this year we're having obvious differences than a normal year. So if for comparison's sake, looking at another school year could be more, if you look at, say, the 19, just going to go back to revenues. So you're looking at lunch and breakfast revenue or a la carte from the 18-19 school year, so 424 and 660. And then looking at the budget for revenues, we're looking at an increase in a la carte sales, but last year we would have had an increase in a la carte sales. So we're looking at an increase in a la carte sales and about the same for lunch and breakfast sales compared to a normal year. So looking at 6/30/20's information is hard to compare to what a normal year's budget would look like because it wasn't a normal year. So that's why normally they look more in line.
Right. Okay. That makes sense now.
Anything else?
Anyone else? Questions for Lisa?
When will you have the final numbers? Like we have the projected for the end of this month. I mean, are you pretty confident that the numbers are going to come in where you project, or you think it's going to be even less?
If anything, it could be a little bit off, but it's going to be pretty much that. It's based on if we got more or less reimbursement based on the participation in our emergency feeding program. And it's not going to change all that much because we've had pretty consistent participation in that. So I'd say it's fairly accurate to what the end of the year is going to look like.
And then with the projected for next year for 2021, where you're using a normal budget, but I mean, I think we can pretty much safely say that it's not going to be. This year we had some closures, so depending on not closing, hopefully, and just reducing, we know the number for the budget for 2021 is definitely going to be off. Maybe not as much as it was this year, but there's definitely going to be like a pretty decent deficit if we're cutting down on the a la carte, which is kind of one of our money makers for revenue.
Yeah, a couple of things could happen where USDA decides that all of the meals we serve are still going to be at the free rate. So that would increase the amount of funding we would be getting from reimbursement. So, there's, like I said, there's variables that we don't know about. A summer feeding program, like we are going to get money reimbursement for running this summer, is something we're not normally eligible for. So USDA has put forth waivers so that we can do that. So that was access to reimbursement funds that we normally would not have. So things like that is just an example of how, things could change in our favor too.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea? Earlier you mentioned something about FEMA reimbursement. Do you have any feel for whether that's a reality or if it's just smoke for right now?
Not really. Judy might be able to speak more towards that. But no, we're hopeful, but we do know that we're looking at the food costs. They're not, really going to look at covering those, but some other things like extra supplies are still a question mark.
And this is new for FEMA as well. We've had a few phone calls with them and we've been emailing back and forth. We're going to be sending them our actual costs, but they're trying to figure it out as well. Remember, they're used to floods, fires, earthquakes, and this is not like that. So they'll pay 75% of whatever they determine to be eligible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa, for giving us a presentation. I would be interested in maybe sort of towards the end of August, beginning of September, when we're getting ready to go back to school. We have maybe a little bit better idea of what's going on, and just a short update, kind of where things stand. And then again, maybe throughout the year, just kind of because we're going into an unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. So if you're able to do that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Holly, I do have another question for Judy. Judy, the use of the general fund balance, how does that affect the budget that was passed, if at all?
This would actually not affect the budget that was just passed. This is going to affect our actual fiscal year results for 2019-20. And within the projected $4 million surplus, we've already accounted for this transfer. So it would be an expense in the general fund, providing a revenue to the food service fund as a transfer in.
Thank you.
Okay, gonna unshare my screen.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Next up on our agenda is our recognition of submitted public comment. Brittany advises me that we did not receive any comments to the board for the meeting this evening. Item 6, action items. First up is our certification of the 2020 budget vote results. And first I'm going to turn it over to Judy, who's going to give us a recap.
So it was a banner day in terms of participation. We more than doubled our usual numbers of voters, I think, thanks to the ease of the absentee ballots. And we had a total of 4,928 ballots cast. And while not everybody voted for every single proposition, we clearly had some majorities. We had the approval at 78% of the budget amount, almost 69% approval on the bus proposition. And then, of course, our 3 current board members, Holly, Meredith, and Christine, are all returned to their seats. And then the library also had similar passage on their budget. And 2 candidates, the 2 top vote getters, were Charmaine Widgesinger and Lisa Schoons, who is returning to their board. So those are the official tabulated results that I submit to the board for your acceptance.
Thank you, Judy. And again, thank you to the community for your support of the budget. It means a lot. Can I have a motion to accept the results as certified?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next on the agenda, item B, finance action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
I just wanted to make a note that I know we, as a board, have received a number of comments about the buses, in particular, urging us to look at the possibility of electric buses going forward. And I do hope that that's something that the district will seriously investigate to see what our options are. And hopefully that's a conversation we can have. Any other discussion?
I understand in a conversation with Jody that it is something that we're seriously looking into, and Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, but that they're like the discussion around the early start time. We know that this is better for the environment. We know that eventually it will be financially better for the district. The question is how to get all the pieces in place, mostly the infrastructure to support the electric buses. So it's not something that can happen immediately, but like we did with changing the bell time, it's something I think with some concerted effort we can get to over time.
That's correct. When school bus consultants did their report, they actually included that as part of it, and provided us with feedback on the electric buses. And they advised for right now to hold off because there's still a lot of questions about their ability to perform in our climate, and there's some other things that are challenging, and they felt that moving forward, it definitely is something that the district should consider, but there are a lot of infrastructure things, as you mentioned, Jonathan. So certainly that's something we want to continue to investigate.
Just to add, I just received an email today. So the New York State Association of Pupil Transportation Services is actually hosting a seminar on the different financing options associated with the purchase of the buses. So that is next week, and I've already registered to attend that. So we'll continue to do our due diligence and gather that information. And we certainly have members from the community who are helping provide this information to us, and we have school bus consultants. So we're in our due diligence feasibility assessments, and we'll continue to report out on what we find through that work.
Great. Thank you, Judy. I know it's just important that we keep the conversation going.
Yes, it is. And thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Item C, professional personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 18.
Point of order.
So moved.
Point of order.
Yes, Jonathan.
I would like to separate out item 10 and 11 to be voted on separately.
Just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said 10 and 11?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm going to restate that. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 9.
So moved.
And 12 through 18.
Also moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the remaining following professional personnel action items 10 and 11.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
That carries. Next is item D, support personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to say I see that there are a couple of late retirements that I see that maybe didn't get acknowledged with our other recognition of retirement. So I just wanted to thank all these people for their many years of service.
Thank you, Meredith. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. E, other action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 through 4.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? passes. Item 7, future meetings and events. Our next board meeting is July 7th. That will be our annual organizational meeting at 7 o'clock. Anticipating an executive session starting at 6. And the meeting following that on Wednesday, August 12th at 7 o'clock, anticipating an executive session starting at 6. Jody, do you anticipate that we should be holding both of those meetings virtually still?
I don't know. The executive order, I think on that, there's a deadline to it, but I don't know when that is. So I'll have to find out.
Okay. If we could confirm that, that would be great. But otherwise, for right now, we will assume that they will continue to be virtual.
Executive order expires that day as of now. So I'm sure we'll know not long before then whether it's extended. But I would assume we need some virtual capability.
Willow, it ends the July date you're talking about?
Yeah, July 6th. Actually.
Right.
Okay. And then Jody, I think, do we have a policy committee meeting also on the calendar?
We don't have it scheduled yet. We're waiting for the recommended changes for our attorneys that I believe, Brittany, did they say they could get that to us within the next week or so? I thought
I think that was their hope. So I'll check back with them tomorrow.
So once we have that, then we'll follow up with a policy committee meeting. We'll set a date for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. We do have a need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter and an individual student matter. Could I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Brittany, if we sign out, then we'll go back. Can we use the link that you sent earlier?
Yes, I will start that meeting now.
Okay.
There's another link. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So we'll adjourn to executive session.